You think freedom means having enough money to say no, retiring early, or not answering to anyone. But Marcus Aurelius would have told you something else entirely. You can be emperor of an empire with legions at your command and still be a slave to your own mind. Because true slavery doesn't always come with chains. Sometimes it shows up dressed as ambition, status, or the life you were told to chase. You wake up on time, you grind without complaint, you follow the rules, you say the right things, and somehow you still feel trapped. You own the house, but the mortgage owns you. You chose the job, but now the job decides how you live. You're not in prison, but your time isn't yours. Your thoughts aren't yours. And some days, even your desires feel borrowed. That's not freedom, that's just functionality. Sophisticated obedience, decorated dependency. And it's the kind of trap most men never question, because it looks exactly like success. The raise, the ring, the reputation, the retirement account. You think you've arrived, but you don't feel free. You feel scheduled, obligated, watched, owned. But Marcus had a different definition. He believed that no man is free if his peace depends on things he cannot control. And that's where our journey begins. 6 Stoic steps to reclaim the only freedom that actually matters, the one no one can take from you. Not your boss, not your ex, not the market, not even death. You are not free if your happiness depends on anything you cannot control. That's not a metaphor, that's a warning. Think about it. What owns you right now? Is it your job, your image, your bank account? Is it the need to be seen as successful, competent, desirable, even when you're quietly falling apart? Most men don't realize they're owned until something gets taken from them. The title, the status, the paycheck, the woman. Then suddenly, everything collapses. Because they never built their foundation on what's truly theirs, only on what the world could give or take away. Marcus didn't measure power by control over others. He measured it by how little the world could take from you and still leave you whole. And that kind of freedom, it doesn't come from money. It comes from inner clarity, from knowing what's truly yours and what's just on loan from the world. So here's the first exercise. Write down everything you fear losing: your income, your partner, your reputation, your future plans. Then ask yourself, if all of that disappeared tomorrow, would anything of you remain? Would you still have clarity, discipline, a sense of purpose? Or would your entire identity dissolve the moment the world stops applauding? Because here's what no one tells you. The system doesn't need to imprison you when it can keep you addicted to validation. It doesn't need to chain your hands, only your self-worth. And as long as your sense of peace is outsourced to things outside your control, you'll never be free. No matter how polished your life looks on the outside. Marcus trained himself every day to detach from illusions. He would ask, what did I want today that I didn't need? What did I fear that was never mine to control? This was not self-help, it was warfare. Mental armor against a world designed to keep men obedient through comfort, image, and silent expectation. You think you're working for your future, but most days, you're just protecting a prison that looks respectable. So ask yourself honestly, what owns you right now but pretends to serve you? Because until you see the invisible chains, you'll keep calling them a lifestyle. So maybe now you see the chains, the titles, the fears, the validations you didn't know you were chasing, but somehow still defined your life. But recognizing your captivity is only the beginning, because the next move most men make is the wrong one. They try to run. They fantasize about quitting the job, deleting the apps, moving to the woods, disappearing from the world that made them feel small. It's tempting, this idea that freedom means escape, that if you cut enough cords, you'll finally feel light. But Marcus Aurelius would say otherwise. He'd remind you, don't seek for everything to happen as you wish it would. Wish instead for everything to happen exactly as it does, and your life will flow well. In other words, freedom isn't control. It's surrender without collapse. It's not about making the world behave. It's about refusing to let the world dictate who you are when it doesn't. Real power isn't found in changing your circumstances. It's found in changing your posture inside them. Because here's the truth, no matter where you go, the world follows. With its chaos, its unfairness, its noise, its pressure. If you rely on peace after the storm is gone, you'll spend your life waiting for clouds to clear. Marcus didn't teach escape. He taught preparation. He taught the discipline of acceptance without surrender, of moving with life, not in resistance to it. And that requires strength. Not the kind people see, but the kind you carry when no one's watching. So the question becomes, what if nothing outside you ever gets easier? What if the system stays unfair, the people stay shallow, and the road stays uphill? Would you collapse? Would you complain? Or would you keep walking with calm in your chest and clarity in your steps? That's the test. Because the most dangerous man is not the one who wins when life is good. It's the one who remains centered when life isn't. Think about the people you admire, not for their performance, but for their presence. They don't need the room to be quiet to stay composed. They bring the quiet with them. That's not luck, that's trained surrender. It's not the soft kind of surrender that rolls over and accepts defeat. It's the hard kind, the warrior's kind, the kind that says, I don't need life to bow to me in order to walk through it with dignity. Marcus practiced this every day. He faced wars, betrayal, sickness, death, and still showed up to lead without resentment or reactivity. Why? Because he didn't need control to stay free. He just needed alignment. He knew the more you fight what you can't change, the more it owns you. But when you accept it fully, consciously, without bitterness, it loses its grip on your mind. And that, right there, is freedom. Not comfort, not ease, not perfect conditions, but the power to look life dead in the face and say, even if nothing changes, I won't become a prisoner of my own reaction. So no, you don't have to run. You don't have to hide. You don't have to fix the world to stop feeling broken. You just have to stop needing it to be different in order for you to feel whole. That's the beginning of real sovereignty, and no system can take that from you. You've seen the traps. You've stopped begging the world to change. But none of that matters if you're still a slave to your own reactions, because you don't need a boss to be controlled. You don't need a prison to be locked in. You only need one untrained mind, yours. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "A man who has control over his passions is the strongest of all." And he wasn't being poetic. He was being surgical. He understood what most modern men forget, that discipline isn't about restriction. It's about protection. It's the wall that guards your freedom from your worst instincts. You think freedom is doing whatever you want, but that's just indulgence. And indulgence doesn't lead to sovereignty. It leads to dependence in disguise. Because if every time you're angry, you lash out, if every time you're anxious, you scroll, if every time you're tired, you quit, then guess what? You're not choosing your life. You're just reacting to it. And someone who lives in reaction is easy to control. The system doesn't need to punish him. It just needs to seduce him, tempt him with comfort, tempt him with applause, tempt him with the illusion of freedom through convenience. And he'll surrender without even knowing it. That's why Marcus trained his mind like a soldier sharpens his blade, not for appearance, not for glory, but because he knew if you can't govern yourself, you'll always be governed by someone or something else. So what does that look like in your world? It looks like pausing before you speak. It looks like resisting the urge to escape discomfort with cheap pleasure. It looks like choosing what's right, even when no one's watching. It means telling yourself no, not because you're weak, but because your future deserves better than your impulses. Start small. Delay one craving today, just one. Don't check the notification. Don't chase the cheap dopamine. Don't say the thing just to feel powerful for 5 seconds. Because every time you delay a reaction, you reclaim a piece of yourself. You build inner weight. You gain leverage over your animal brain. And over time, that leverage becomes armor. Not the kind that hardens you, but the kind that protects your highest self from your lowest urges. That's what Stoic discipline is. It's not cold, it's not rigid, it's freedom, structured. Freedom to choose your response, to hold your ground, to not be pulled by every noise, every mood, every shallow reward the world dangles in front of you. So here's the challenge. Pick one area of your life where your emotions still make the decisions. And this week, don't fix it, just watch it. Observe the pattern, feel the urge, then pause. Because the pause is where you stop being programmable. It's where you stop being predictable. It's where freedom gets built, one disciplined moment at a time. Marcus didn't become untouchable because he had power over others. He became untouchable because he built power over himself. And in a world that profits from your distraction, your discipline isn't just rebellion, it's sovereignty. Discipline gives you control over your impulses. But there's another trap. More invisible, more seductive, and far more difficult to escape. It's not about what you crave behind closed doors. It's about what you crave in public. Recognition, status, being seen as someone who's doing it right. You could meditate, work out, read philosophy, even live simply. But if deep down you're still hoping someone notices, applauds, or admires, then you're still not free. You're just chasing a more refined form of validation. Marcus Aurelius saw it clearly. He wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." And that includes the craving to be perceived a certain way, to be called disciplined, to be labeled wise, to be known as strong. The ego is a shapeshifter. It'll even wear your new Stoic mask if it gets to stay admired. But here's the hard truth. The man who needs to be seen is still owned. Owned by opinions, owned by comparison, owned by the endless echo of, "Am I enough yet?" That's not freedom. That's just another performance. And we live in a world that rewards performance, especially masculine performance. Provide, achieve, lead, impress. Don't feel too much, don't fail, don't be small. So we keep chasing the applause, chasing the moment someone finally tells us, "You did it, you matter, you're a real man now." But that moment never comes, not in the way that fills you, because real freedom doesn't come from being seen. It comes from being centered, even when invisible. You stop being free the moment your identity depends on someone else noticing it. The system doesn't have to trap you if it can tempt you to trap yourself. And the craving to be admired is one of the easiest traps to fall into because it feels good for a while. But Marcus didn't build his mind for applause. He built it for alignment. He would ask, "Am I doing this for virtue or for validation? If no one saw me today, would I still live the same?" That's the question you have to start asking. Because your real self doesn't need an audience. Your ego does. Your real self finds peace in doing the work. Your ego wants others to know you're doing it. One liberates you, the other owns you. So pause and ask yourself honestly, why do you work so hard? Why do you dress the way you do? Post what you post, say what you say. Are you building something real, or are you building an image? Because the more energy you spend maintaining your image, the less you have for actually becoming the man you pretend to be. There is nothing wrong with being seen, but needing to be seen, that's a cage, beautiful, flattering, and hollow. And the scariest part? Most people will cheer you on while you build that cage, because they're building theirs too. But Marcus didn't write meditations for readers. He wrote it for himself, in silence, alone, without applause. That's what freedom looks like. Doing the right thing even when no one's watching, especially when no one's watching. So here's your question for the week. What part of your life still depends on being admired? And if you removed the audience, would you still be doing it? Because freedom isn't being admired by everyone. It's being owned by no one, especially not the crowd inside your head. So now you've stopped needing to be admired. You've started walking away from the applause. But there's still one more place where the world can reach in and pull your strings. Your stuff, your schedule, your constant comparison. Marcus Aurelius said, "The more we value things outside our control, the less control we have." And most people spend their entire lives clinging to exactly those things. They call it normal, success, ambition. But really, it's just another form of ownership. Because the more you have, the more the system can use it against you. The bigger the house, the bigger the fear of losing it. The nicer the title, the more painful it becomes to let it go. You want to live free? Start subtracting the things the world can take from you. Because here's the truth. You can't be free while managing 100 silent contracts with your lifestyle, your social image, and your to-do list. That's why Marcus lived simply. Not because he couldn't afford more, but because he refused to be ruled by more. He didn't outsource his peace to outcomes. He didn't decorate his self-worth with luxuries. He didn't build a life that needed protection. He built one that didn't need permission. And that's the kind of life you can start building now. It starts with the hardest thing in the modern world, saying no. No to the notification, no to the upgrade, no to the lifestyle creep that quietly turns your income into new obligations. No to the urge to keep up with people you don't even like. Minimalism isn't about living with less, it's about needing less. Because when you need less, you fear less. And when you fear less, you act with clarity instead of desperation. So ask yourself, what are the things you think you own, but really own you? That second car, that extra commitment, that closet full of just-in-case stuff you never touch. That streaming subscription that drains your time but not your stress. Every item, every click, every convenience has a weight. And at some point, all that weight keeps you from moving freely. It dulls your instincts. It clutters your space. It fills your calendar but empties your attention. Simplicity isn't sexy. You can't flex it. You won't get applause for it. But simplicity buys back something applause never could: presence. Marcus didn't need 10 priorities. He needed one: to live with reason, integrity, and calm, even as the world burned around him. And for that, he kept his life light. Mentally, emotionally, physically. So here's your practice. Pick one area of life and start subtracting. Cut one commitment you made out of guilt. Cancel one subscription you forgot you had. Remove one item from your space that adds noise but no value. Say no to one thing this week, just one, that tempts you to look busy instead of be present. And then sit in the space you cleared. Feel what it's like to not be pulled in every direction. Feel what it's like to own your time, your choices, your energy. The world wants you overloaded, because overloaded people are easy to sell to, easy to scare, and easy to manage. But the man with little need, he's hard to control. He's light, he's focused, he's dangerous, because the less you need, the freer you become. You've simplified, you've stripped away the noise, but there's still one last fear that keeps most men owned. And it's the one we never want to talk about: death. We spend our lives running from it, hiding it behind routines, avoiding it with distraction, pretending it's far away until it isn't. But Marcus Aurelius didn't run from death. He invited it into his thoughts every single day. You could leave life right now, he wrote. Let that determine what you do, say, and think. He didn't say that to be morbid. He said it to be free. Because nothing can own the man who's no longer owned by time. No future to prove. No legacy to polish. No tomorrow to protect. Just now. See, death doesn't imprison you. Your denial of it does. It keeps you chasing more years, more status, more stuff, like you'll live forever. But the man who faces death clearly, who wakes up knowing today might be his last, is the only man who truly lives. He speaks only what matters. He acts without delay. He loves without armor. He stops waiting to be ready and starts becoming real. Most people live like they have endless time. That's why they postpone truth, why they play roles, why they keep feeding a version of themselves that isn't even honest. But if this was your last week alive, would you keep chasing the same things, arguing over the same nonsense, performing for the same people? Or would you finally let go? Let go of the pressure, the resentment, the weight of trying to be who you're not. Death is the final filter. It clarifies what actually matters and reveals how little you need to feel alive. Marcus didn't fear death. He used it as a compass, as a teacher, as a reminder that time is not promised and nothing you own will follow you. So what owns you today? That wouldn't matter at your funeral. That's where you start subtracting, not to prepare for death, but to finally start living. Because when you realize you could leave life at any moment, you stop wasting it on things that never truly belong to you. And that's the paradox. Facing death makes you free, because it frees you from the illusion of later. The illusion that you can postpone presence, postpone truth, postpone being yourself. But the clock doesn't negotiate, and life isn't waiting for you to feel ready. So don't just rehearse the idea of freedom. Live it, now without conditions, without delay. Marcus Aurelius never taught you to run from the world. He taught you how to stand still in it, anchored, awake, unshaken. He didn't promise ease, he offered alignment. Because no system can truly own the man who no longer rents himself to fear, validation, or control. He can work in the world, but not be worked by it. He can lead, but not perform. He can lose, but not be lost. That's the essence of Stoic freedom, not to escape the world, but to move through it without selling your soul to stay afloat. Not to have power over others, but to have sovereignty over yourself. So if you remember only one thing from this journey, let it be this: be tolerant with others, but be strict with yourself. Marcus Aurelius. Because when you become unshakable inside, no one out there can truly own you again.